think big, but be ready for all the big things you will have to go across. And being an entrepreneur or being a manager is absolutely not an easy task.
This doesn't mean that you should not put passion in what you do.
So we talked extensively about FOMO. Actually, what are your thoughts about cryptocurrencies? Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of the RIV Podcast. Today's guest is Mario Mantovani. Mario has several years of experience in the corporate world. He started in IT consulting, then worked in a turnaround project and has an extensive experience in management. He has also been the president of Manager Italia, which is the association of all the Italian managers. So Mario, welcome to the RIV Podcast.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Nice to have you here, Mario. And actually, it's the first time that you are in Dubai, right?
Yes, right.
So how is Dubai treating you as a first impact here?
Well, the first impact is a younger city than those that I lived in. It looks like probably as I see it as I saw for the first time New York. For the first time I was there for business, and it was not so young actually, but it looked like a place where things happen, where you can thrive, where you can make new things happen. And so I think that Dubai now represents this type of city, where people of different cultures meet, where there's a blend of races and competencies, where there's also a blend of experienced and young people. And this is what is really missing in the last years of my life. So people wanted to accelerate their growth, an environment where you can create, test, and put in place new ideas and develop with young energies. I think this is the right place to try to do this.
Yeah, we talked a lot also in the previous episodes of the podcast about how vast the different cultures are here in Dubai. So there are a high percentage of immigrants here, like ourselves, and it's really nice that you can see a lot of different cultures. You can experience a lot of different cultures, and also in the office space, you have a nice blend of different cultures, and this I think is really helpful when you want to grow, when you want to create something new and worldwide. A worldwide business is really important to have these opportunities, and also all the people that are here in Dubai are really people that are here to have a success. They are here because they have a dream and they want to make it. That's the reason why they're here. So I fully agree on you, and absolutely, it's also a young city. You see, there's a lot of buildings really that have particular architecture. And as we were talking today about the architecture, about the buildings here, so it's really engaging.
It's been a paradise for architects in the last years, I imagine.
Exactly. Okay, so let's start about with your story.
Yeah.
So, as an academic path, where did you finish your studies, and then where did you start as soon as finished?
Yes, my studies were quite classical. So I studied economics and management in the city where I was born, in Bologna, which is the oldest university in the world. So I've been happy to live there and to spend time at this important university. Of course, at that time there was not so there weren't so different paths of studies. So there was mostly one type of study program, and then you usually choose to become a professional in the fiscal sector mainly, or it was becoming really newly important, the profession of auditor. No, so many colleagues, friends became auditors. But from one of them, I had the information that the company was opening a management consulting division oriented to IT in Italy under the same brand of Andersen, that was the leading, Arthur Andersen was the leading auditing firm at the time. And I decided to try to put in place some idea that I developed on my final thesis work at the university that was based on the information system. So it talked about the information system, how they can change the organization of a company. Actually, it is something that I did for all my life. So I used the technologies to change the organization, to change how the firms behave, how the people also interact.
When did you start this activity? Which years were?
1985, because it was also the military service at that time.
How many years you worked in consulting?
I worked in consulting 11 years in Andersen Consulting, now Accenture. And after a pause of 2 years, I returned to the consulting in Ernst & Young for a couple of years. Then the company was sold to Capgemini, and so I decided that was not the type of company that I had chosen, and so I turned back to turn around that 2 years before I had started to know, to learn in particular.
You saw a lot of changes, growth from a technology point of view, obviously because you were working in technology, so you had access to the technology. So I can only imagine the changes you saw from 1995 to the technology of now. So tell us, how was working in technology? Which kind of hardware were you guys using in those periods?
Yes, a couple of days ago, I casually came in front of the building where I spent my first weeks of work in a room, and I saw the room where the first professional computer that I used was placed. It was an IBM System 34. That was a very big machine that is much smaller than my clock, probably, in terms of memory now. No, that was an old computer, very modern for that time. And we started coding, programming. So coding has been an experience very relevant for my professional life. Everybody started coding in Accenture and the
I mean,
for a couple of years.
Why do you think it was relevant? To understand how technology works?
It was relevant on my side, not on the logical thinking and structuring. I was quite strong on that side, so I had good votes on that side. But I was lacking detail, attention to detail. So I was one of the best when it was to come to the 80% of the solution. After that, I tended to leave and start something different. So well, there's someone which is better than me in going from 80 to 100%. And I learned that with coding that it doesn't matter if you're very good to go to 99%, because you have to go to 100. Because when mistakes comes out, everything you've done is useless. No, and this was very, very useful for me. And what I learned that this type of attention to detail is something that I never cured 100%. So I've not become the best in the world in doing detailed work. In particular, with my hands, I'm not very good. I think I've been very lucky to live in a period when computers ruled. Because if I had to live where hands were ruled, I would have been very poor.
That's very interesting. I've also started my career in IT consulting, and I also started coding, so I can really relate. Of course, the coding now is much different to the one.
Is much different. In the different times of my life, I reverted to coding. For example, HTML.
Wow.
I wanted to understand how it was made from the inside. So viewing the technology from the inside was a different approach from now. Was one of the big differences. You said many technologies have gone through from that time, but the true difference is that type of technology could still be seen in its fundamental layers, also by not technical. Like me, I had an economic background, not a technical one, but it could be seen and understood. Not in detail, but enough to understand the logic. Why these layers of software, how they interact, why are they laid out. And this is very useful to understand the next steps of technology. Now, many technologies are black boxes. So you use them, but you don't know, you can't understand, unless you are a very technical, skilled person, how they work, how are they built. And I think this is a change that is not so positive.
I think also that not only technology itself changed or evolved, but also a lot of new tools are now on the market for developers.
Yes.
For example, AI with ChatGPT can simply give you codes, lines of codes. It in certain things you can do it all. Obviously, you need to be a developer to be able to apply it. But I think that I'm not saying that the developer is an easy job right now. But I'm sure you have a lot of tools that make it simpler, make it easier right now to start and also to be successful as a developer. And maybe also when you have issues, when you have problems, you can also have some tools that maybe at that time you didn't have. You need maybe to check manually everything.
It's true, and it took time and took try and error. But these tools are the dream of the analyst. So my second job in analysis was I became an analyst. And so why the dream? Because when you are an analyst, you need, at the time, you needed someone else to code and to see the result. And you wanted to see if the result was right, was correct, or what the effect was. And it took time. If something was wrong, you had to restart. And you had to dialogue with these people that very often were very concentrated on the job and so quite difficult to interact with, like now, more or less. But these tools ease this process, and you can see the result before. But how do you become an analyst? This is the question that is very relevant when I see the transformation of work in the recent times. How do young people can access professional work without the path that we know, without making the steps that we made? No? So there should be a different way, because the access that now is required is an access at the level that was reserved to very experienced people once. So you have to provide the tools, but also to provide the knowledge to understand the purpose, to understand what the results should be. So why, the reason why. It was something that you learned step by step. Now you have to learn it very, very quickly.
Yeah, it's changed. Obviously, with time, society changed, the technology changed, and also markets changed. So based on what the market wants, the industry will create, and that's all related. We live on an ecosystem, so everything, anything that happens is related. And moving a bit forward to the business you started around turnarounds, and maybe it was always analyzing, and it was always understanding how a company worked, where the errors were, and how to fix it. So tell us about that experience you had, how it started and why it started.
Yeah, it started because I wanted to change. I suffered the fact that being a consultant is not being a manager. In short words. So I worked for companies. I put in place changes whose execution was depended on actions, not really decision, but action, consequent action of managers. And I wanted to try. My idea was, okay, step aside. Now I'm doing also the execution, and this was not. This happened partially some years after. So when the particular companies like Accenture, IBM started with to outsource, to get outsourced business. And so they managed. That was the result. So okay, we make the project. We also manage the infrastructure that we create. You know? But at that time, it was not yet mature, this type of business approach. So I wanted to get into the company and behave like a manager, a true manager. But the experience that I had was difficult to spend in the traditional organization that saw some specific competencies. So you went from the administrative role to the CFO responsibility, or to commercial, or so. So my was an experience that was relevant, but also different in different areas of the company. Actually, I could only become a general manager. No, it was not always easy. So I met an entrepreneur, so a person experienced who had started the business in turnaround. So his company was an holding company who bought companies in difficult economic situation, mainly Italian subsidiaries of international companies that for some reason had to be restructured or had some type of problem, and he made restructuring and sold the company to some other international group or to some Italian entrepreneur, and I learned from him what it means. Working for a company which loses money is the reverse, so the opposite of what you learn at university. All the principles are mostly reversed.
And you also had to see the chance to see the mistakes that companies made, and I think this is very important also.
Yes, this is important. You must also forget what the errors have been, because if you focus on the past, you spend very tight time, the small time that you have to understand what to do next. But the mistakes are easily seen, and usually there are two types of mistakes, mainly. The mistake in the execution phase. So the strategy was right, the market idea was right, the product was not bad, probably, but the execution was poor. So the people, the culture was not coherent, and the steps made to reach the objective were, for some reason, failing. The second is the strategic error. This strategic error, well, can be made by anyone, by managers, by entrepreneurs. But the interesting thing is that very often has the same roots of the success factor. So they're the same thing that can determine the success of a company or its failure. So I'm talking about passion, for example, or treating the company like your family, no? Or vision, long-term vision. So we usually see the bright side of this. We consider them quality, and they are. I saw the dark side of the moon. So the situation where passions means not being able of pulling apart from a product or service that doesn't work anymore, for example. Treating people like your family, and when things are bad, how do you do? What do you do with this family? And it's very difficult to tell. Okay, 50% of the family cannot be with us anymore to save the remaining 50%, and so on. So
we were talking actually yesterday where we have dinner together, and you told me something really, really important. And you said an entrepreneur should never fall in love with his own company.
Yes, should never fall in love. This doesn't mean an entrepreneur is also a manager. So this doesn't mean that you should not put passion in what you do, and this is very important. If you are too distant from what you're doing, you will never be able to lead a team in particular, or to communicate to the stakeholders that you have the keys for the success. But fall in love means being blind sometimes. So you cannot afford to be blind on what you're doing. So you must understand that there are cycles, first of all. So things can work, but anything can as a life cycle. And there's a turning point where you must understand that, as we learned at university, there's a cash cow that be used as a cash cow, and you must start something new, no, for example.
Also, we were talking about how it is important for a company to be able to evolve and to change through time, to adapt to the market. Because you can't create a company and always do the same thing.
Always do the same.
You need to have that vision and that skill to be able to change how the company is working and change following the market. It's like the cash flow is like a river with the water. So you need to be positioned in the right spot of the river all the time, I think.
Yes, that's really true. And I spent all my time trying to making changes in organization, also in the last part of my. So I devoted my professional life to change, and the little money that I made comes from changes, not from a static situation. But the main question that I made to myself, and still probably I don't have the final answer, is how deeply can you change an organization? What's the measure? Where are the limits? My partial answer is that every organization has its own pace. You are a runner, so you know that pace
is important.
Is fundamental. So you must understand what's your pace. From that, you can improve. And where you're not very well, you must step back a little bit.
Yeah. If you want to run a marathon and your pace, you cannot run it with the same pace that you run a 10-kilometer run. Yeah. It will not last.
Exactly. And you got your pace, I got my pace because I'm older than you. Yeah. And our bodies are different.
So companies are the same.
So organization in general, but also the state, for example. No, someone comes in and say, "I will change everything," but what? Tell me what? And I understand if you're saying bullshit or no. Usually is the first. But understanding what the pace is, you can accelerate. But in some situation, it's not enough. So you can accelerate, but you can't cope with the change that's too dramatic in some way. Well, in this case, I'm quite convinced that the only solution is making new companies, letting new companies emerge. You can't change. Well, there are big organizations that have been able to change themselves from the inside, but in most cases, is letting new energies come in. So new companies emerge, and we've seen the last time it happened at the worldwide level was probably 20 years ago. 20 years are a long period. So we tend, this is mostly European and Italian in particular, so we tend to consider organization like the eternity. Most organizations in Italy, and I'm talking only companies, but also public organizations, were born after the Second World War, which was our new beginning in some way. And we consider that from that time on, they should survive, but it's not common. It's an exception, a long life
Absolutely.
for organization. So the only solution is to understand, to see clearly that sometimes you have to step back and not to lose the competencies in particular. So working in turnaround was for me saving people in many cases. So trying to preserve the people, the families, and the value, and this happened through preserving the value that was inside the company. It was not enough to keep the company profitable in many cases, but some know-how, some departments, some skills could be still profitable in a different organization. So laying off people, for example, is not an effective strategy because it costs money, that you need. It costs cash in particular. You're cash thirsty when you make a turnaround. So you cannot spend 2 years to send away a manager.
Yeah, it has to be a dynamic.
You let him go, of course. So you tell the best way, say, okay, there's no future here. If you got opportunities, go. What happens? That better people go. Yeah. And so you have to accept that best people leave the company. In some cases, they represent the know-how of that company. So there's a trade-off between the two. So you can tell him, if he's a manager, you can wait for 3 months, 6 months. If something happens, there could be a new future here for you. Not with me. With someone else. If you like it, wait a minute, understand who's going to buy, if there's a blender that can work, or unless, okay, you must, I give you the advice to leave. It's better for you, it's better for the company too. This is the only way to cut costs without spending useful cash.
Absolutely. So working in this industry, like you were... Yeah. Saving, as you said, companies and saving families, it's a really tough, I think, task, because you have to do the interest of the company, but also be able to preserve the interest of the family that the company is. But I wanted to ask you, which are the most common errors that you saw in the companies that you worked with? Which are the common errors that entrepreneurs and managers usually do?
Nice. Usually they're different. So entrepreneurs and managers do different errors. Starting from the entrepreneurs, the first error is not understanding that being an entrepreneur means having 2 jobs, investor and manager. And if you are an excellent entrepreneur, you must be excellent in both. And it's pretty difficult to be excellent in both. So most entrepreneurs are good investors and not good managers, maybe, or good managers and not. If they keep try to keep together, to keep the control of the company, for example, very often can't, for example, put in place an effective growth strategy. To grow, you need finance. And to let finance in, you have to step back from control gradually, not losing the focus, but you cannot be the king like it was before. If you want to be the king, there's a different strategy. This is the first error. The second entrepreneurial error is to consider the company a part of yourself, of your family. So treat it like your family. So this becomes also on the economic side as a confused situation where you tend to spend usually money which doesn't belong only to you but to the organization. And so when things go bad or less well than before, the company is burdened by costs that are not required. And then also the organizational decision can be difficult to take when you treat it like a family, because there's someone who was at school with you, the friend, your cousin, and so you cannot change based on competencies, make decision based on competence. Managers are not, well, there are few people in general are good for every season. So a manager is a suit for a company, and you must wear the right suit for the right season. So if a manager is good at the turnaround, it's quite difficult to dedicate good, not for growth strategy. So in my experience, growth strategy and turnaround have similarities because they're discontinuities. No, you cannot rely on a daily success basis. But they're not so good. This type of manager, as I consider myself, are not so good in managing the day-by-day status. No,
you're saying that a manager that is the suit of the turnaround is really good, maybe at taking decision in a, I don't want to say panic situation, but in a tough situation.
Same.
Where you need to be really, really careful to all the details that you put in place for this really delicate situation and issue that you have to address. But then on a day-to-day basis where everything is running normal and has to keep running normal with the same pace as you were saying before, it's not what you're made for. You're made for that situation.
So in the turnaround, but also in the growth, accelerated growth, you must take decision based on time and cash constraints. Mainly, you have those two constraints that lead the priorities of your day. In a different situation, if you haven't these two constraints, you tend to consider irrelevant. So I made my example. So if someone says, if a shareholder says, okay, but this year our revenues decreased by 0.5%, what are you thinking to do? If I don't lie, I said nothing. Because there's nothing I can do on 0.5%. What it means to me? What are you asking me? 0.5. It can depend on many events worldwide. Well, next year there will be something different. But this is not the right answer to a shareholder who says, "Well, why do you lead this company?" I'm gonna choose someone else that can actually focus on consider it a signal as can be, or explain why this year, next year will be different. No, it's a different approach. No.
Yeah. That makes it's really important to what you said. I think around the suits. So the manager are the suits of the company, and every suit has its own season.
Yes, and I led the organization of managers, but I'm saying, okay, you must change the suits.
The suit.
Absolutely.
Pay them well when they leave, of course.
Yeah.
Don't expect not to pay the cost of changing, but change the suit.
It's necessary.
Because it won't be good for the company, for the manager too. Because in the end, it's better to go away when you, as a fighter, for example, as a sportman, when you
are
got
in
success.
the peak,
When you're in the peak of your success, not
Absolutely.
when you start losing matches.
There is always the right timing
The
for
right
everything.
to retire. In this case,
Okay, Mario. So we discussed about your past and your present. How do you see your near future?
well, I started my fourth professional life in some way. I see my future focused on finance and technologies. And why? Because I think that finance has always. I've never been directly involved for a long time in the finance sector. I have some specific experiences. Particularly, I'm the administrator of a payment institution and I work in SGR. But in particular, focusing on finance means to me trying to avoid the constraints of time and space. So finance means having the possibility of moving ideas, moving people, moving companies, releasing some constraints presented by the time and by the place where you do it. So this is really powerful, and coupled with the technologies, technology have been, as you understood, a part of my professional life all life long. So I've been passionate of understanding new technologies, adopting, and in particular understanding how they can change the lives of organization and people too. And so I think that is a very interesting period to put together these two approaches and to understand what could come, what new could come out from this.
From the intersection of
finance and technologies.
Yes.
And it's a very interesting because it's not really new, because technology has entered the finance world also in the 90s in some ways, but now there's a strong acceleration towards the power you can put into the finance world and the transformational approach that can be started.
Yeah, also many technologies have been born that can really simplify many processes in finance. I'm thinking about blockchain technology, tokenization. It's really interesting. I agree with you that it's interesting and it's exciting to see how these two will converge.
How this, can really happen and transform businesses, business models, and in the end, the lives and the way that we behave.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would like, maybe we will come back to this technology and fintech reality later in the episode. But I wanted to ask you a question about mentorship, because we talked a lot in other episodes about the importance for a young entrepreneur, a young manager, to have a mentor that can be a physical connection with someone, but also can be as an inspiration to somebody that you can't have access directly. So what is your thought about mentorship? Do you think it is important to have a mentor? Have you also been a mentor for somebody in your long career around management?
Yeah. I think I've been a better mentor than mentee, because my approach with people was more experienced, and in general the approach that I like best is challenging. So challenging your competencies, challenging what you've done, and trying to understand what can be useful with a dialogue that puts the people on the same level, although they are not. And I think that this is a secret of being a good mentor, so accepting challenges and putting the mentee in the position of, for maybe for a small amount of time, being feeling at the same level of you. Unless this happens, is a lesson. It's not a mentorship.
It's not a relationship.
So I didn't find many managers, many people, many leaders that accepted. In some cases, they disliked it. No, my approach, and I think the opposite, that's been quite successful. Actually, I have many colleagues now that were young professional when we met. With 10, 15 years less than me, and they become during the time very successful in many cases. And we started with this role, mentor and mentee. I've also experienced a structured process of mentorship inside some companies where I worked, and I think it's useful. So
let me ask you: do you think is the mentee that chooses the mentor, or is the mentor that chooses the mentee? Because there are some famous entrepreneurs, okay, so that everybody would aspire to have. I'm talking for someone like me, young. I had my career as entrepreneur. Now I'm working in RIV, but also always with this entrepreneur kind of approach. I'm thinking. Obviously, there are a lot of famous entrepreneurs that I would like to have as a mentor. But what is the role of the mentor? How does a mentor choose his mentee? As you said, you put some challenges, and it's the mentee that has to accept. But is there a selection in this process?
Well, this is a typical HR question. When you put in process, is it better to make the mentee to choose his mentor, or the mentor chooses his mentee? Well, I'm not sure that there's a
but how does
golden rule.
I'm not saying is it better or is it worse, but how does a mentor live this?
I think that the mentee has probably more time to think about what really wants to take from the process, from the interaction, so can reflect better on what he wants. Of course, there are some leaders that everybody wants as a mentor, but in the end, each one should reflect on what they can really take for themselves, and not necessarily from the most renowned, that could probably say the same things that you already know, that has already said to a lot of people, and that has written maybe or had speeches in the TV. It's very difficult for a person which is famous to say something different than his daily focus, and in particular to trying to understand what's worth for you. No, and this is what's important. The mentor has less time and mostly doesn't know. When it happened to me, I didn't know. I only had 2 lines of CV, or maybe it was a student. So, okay, I can try to understand from the place where you were born or the studies that you made, what you're interested, but it's not the reason why we are here.
Actually, I read a book a couple years ago. It's called The Time Horizon Principle, and it has been written by Julian Hosp. And the book talked about how it is important to plan your future in order to understand what you have to do tomorrow. So you need to have a clear vision of where you want to be. For example, in my case, where do I want to be when I'm 50 years old? And in order to be there at 50 years old, where should I be in 20 years? Where should I be in 5 years? and at the end, what should I do tomorrow to start this process? But the book talked also about his personal experience with his mentor, and the relationship that you have, that I understand you need to have with a mentor, obviously is not a friendship. Your mentor is not your friend. It's not someone you call every day. Hey, how are you going? How is it going on? It's someone that won't even give you the direct answers to your issues,
Yes.
but will put you and turn the issue in your eyes in a way that you can understand it yourself. I think that's the real work a mentor has to do. I'm always talking from my personal experience. I'm not a mentor. I like talking about this. I like bringing my experience, and I helped a lot of my friends that I'm sure they're watching this episode, and we grow together. But when I approached my first mentor, it was a relationship where he always tried to challenge me, to make me look at this issue from another perspective. And maybe 2 days later, I would say, now I got it. Now I
Yeah.
understood the problem.
No, that's you got the right spirit of mentorship. Yeah.
Okay.
You can be a good mentor too.
So it's in your life, which are if you can share with us some of the more successful managers you worked with, or some experience around this manager ecosystem you lived in, just to conclude this
Yeah.
talk about managers, mentorship, and entrepreneurs, which have been the most satisfying outcomes that you had in your
Yes,
past.
probably the place where I met the best managers, the best people, was my first experience in Accenture. I probably didn't understand at that time, because I thought that the world was more or less the same outside. But after many years, I think that it was a very clever group, very deep knowledge group that developed in many steps. Not casually, those guys became leaders worldwide. So they took responsibilities in Singapore, in Japan, in India, in Arabia, in Eastern Europe. So their ability of becoming leader not only in the original country, in the US too, some of them went in the board, in the central board. So it's this capability of many Italian managers of blending cultures is quite distinctive. And I've been lucky to work with and to know this type of people. I think they are the best that I met. But they're not so known. So if I tell you the names, you probably haven't seen them in the magazines or so. But they made something really relevant in a specific period, in particular of our civilization. That's called globalization. And I've been in the places where globalization was born, and I've seen it develop. So this has been a privilege in some way. They've been those able to develop this type of process coherently with a lot of success.
Yeah. I have a question actually, Mario. So in your so what do you think are the best features that a manager should have, and how education is important for a manager, like to study innovation, the trends, and so on?
This is a big question. So I think the major feature is being conscious of who you are. So spending time of understanding who you really are, what you really want, and what you really can do, I could do if some ingredients could. And so understanding yourself is the basis. After that, you can develop, because you can develop many qualities.
Yeah.
I don't believe that there are many qualities that are innate. Of course, someone can make steps faster than others. No, there. Of course, it's also it's again the question of the pace. No, someone can be a champion, but without practicing every day, cannot reach great results. The education. It's easy to say that's fundamental, but probably also when I studied, but mostly now, it's not what you study, but how you learn to study, how you learn to learn, and so we should see everything that we learn as something we're practicing. Not really the object, because information can be gathered easily everywhere, but you have to understand why you need this information. What are you going to do with that information, and how the process of learning develops? How long does it take, and so
how to use the information?
How to use this information, not just the memory. I never had a great memory, so I always longed for a computer that would keep all the mathematics formulas, for example. I always thought there will be one day when it won't be necessary anymore to get that memory. You push a button and it comes out the square root. So there was the calculator, of course, but something similar. But and it was difficult for me to understand that it was a method, a way to learn. It was too theoretical. So
I'm glad you brought out the education topic, actually, because it's as you said, it's important to learn how to learn.
Yeah.
Because in the right now on the market, you can find free content anywhere.
Yes. Anyway.
Whatever thing you want to learn, is it from cooking lasagna or to become an investor, you can find it on YouTube, right? But I think that the challenging thing is that there is so much material available for free that it's a job to select that material.
Yes.
And sometimes, I'm talking from my personal experience, I started studying on free material, but only at a certain point I understood it wasn't the right material for me. So I think that what we are trying to create also with RIV Academy is to bring the correct information from people that have studied technology, that have studied finance, but that didn't only study, but applied it on the market.
Yes.
We have people that not only studied what a blockchain is, but they created their own blockchain. I'm talking about Enrico. He didn't just understand. He can explain what a blockchain is, but why? Because he created it. And so he can explain all the problems that come with it. So I think you can agree with me when we say that it's important to find that company, that school, that academy that can bring the expertise of important and successful people together in a package.
Yeah.
So you see, everybody says, yeah, you can just search online and find education for free. Why are you buying courses? The point is that online you can find anything. There is too much. The offer hasn't been selected by anybody. So it is education, I think, is really the basics. You need to start from education, whatever thing you do. If you want to be, as I said, a cook, that you need to start cooking and do beautiful dishes, you have to study for that.
Yeah.
Your creativity isn't enough.
No.
If you want to become...
make the errors that have been made many times by others. So it's not...
If you want to be successful in finance or in blockchain technology, with all the growth that we are seeing right now, with tokens, with trading, with development, tokenization, all of these markets that are arising, it's important to have someone that you can really rely on. And
Yeah.
it can be an academy, it can be someone in particular, but you need to have this selection. So I think it is really, really important to value where you get your information from.
Yeah, I think there are two things that you mentioned that are really focused, fundamental to me. So, one is trust. So, learning, also analyze information require a trusted counterpart. And also the problem of fake news and so is because the professional of information don't yet understand that their job is selling trust, not producing news. Everyone can produce news, fake or not fake. It's easy now. Everybody can do it with a telephone. But the difference is, may I trust what I see? May I trust what I read, and why? And this is the scope of everyone who sells information, education, and so. The second aspect is how we learn. That changed a lot due also to new technologies. We were grown. Our generation was grown still in the idea of the encyclopedia. So the knowledge was a whole divided in blocks. So you had to learn the building blocks, and then with the building blocks you can build your knowledge, starting from the lower level and then on the upper level as a pyramid. Now it cannot work anymore. It's impossible to include all the knowledge in an encyclopedia, you know. So you have to reverse the process and use a deductive learning process. So you must understand what you want to learn, where you want to go, why you want to understand, and then what you need. If you want to understand finance, you must understand what the purpose is to study something and what your objective is, and then step by step, go to the basics. In the end, you will learn the mechanism, but before you must create your own path that's tailored on what you want to achieve. So selling an education course, for example, on blockchain, means first of all understanding who the people are in front of you, what they want, why they're interested in. They're just curiosity, but with simple curiosity doesn't start anything. They want to make money overnight. They want to grow the professional knowledge. They're professional in the finance sector, traditional finance sector. They want to understand how it is evolved in decentralized finance, for example. No? So this is their focus, and you have to follow their learning thought, their learning process, providing step by step what they need and when they need. This is the other big change. You cannot put it in a bag and say, okay, one day I will use it.
Absolutely. I think
I learn if I can use it now, as you said, now or tomorrow. If I can try, I learn to cook. If tomorrow or the next week someone will come at my house and have a dinner, not just because I want to say I'm a cook.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nobody cares.
But you see, education around crypto, around blockchain, around all this ecosystem, which is DeFi, decentralized finance.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about it, but really nobody knows. In the market, there are not a lot of experts.
No.
There are people that seem experts, but they are not. So this rapidly evolving landscape, which is DeFi, has created the chance and the opportunity for a lot of scams.
Yes.
And why do scams happen and why do they have success? From my point of view, and I think you will share this, is that there is a lack of education. It's a an ignorance, which is normal ignorance, because it's a new topic and you don't learn this at school. It's not something that your father, when you grow, will tell you, be careful of connecting your wallet through this decentralized exchange. You need to learn it. So this ecosystem, this far west, as I like to talk about it, of the DeFi, needs and has to be based with education. People don't need to become expert traders, but people need to understand that they live in a world where this exists. There are a lot of positive things you can do, but there are really a lot of dangerous things that can happen living in this ecosystem. So education in this case is, I think, something that can help to protect people that live in this ecosystem. Yeah. You have no idea of how many scams are available on the market, and these scams, the most successful one, all work around ignorance. Connect your wallet, receive $10,000 for free. Just insert here your seed phrase, and we will send it. And unfortunately, it's not the fault of people right now, because they are not educated. Nobody taught them. So really, if anyone wants to start something in this landscape, in this ecosystem, needs to have a basic knowledge of what they're going to do or where to put the hands. You need a course that gives you the screwdriver. It's not just a theoretical course. You need something that you start from zero, but then you have the knowledge to understand what's going on around you. So education around crypto, around finance, really helps you to grow, but also will protect you in the long run, for sure.
Yes, for sure. And I think there are two major issues that, to reinforce what you said, I will stress. One is that finance in general has always been in this today too, an environment where there's a big distance in knowledge between sellers and buyers, people and bankers. And we must say that money is made and has been made also using in some way this. I wouldn't say always ignorance, but different level of knowledges. This is typical of the financial environment, and we are in a life cycle timing where there's a lot of hype, as it happened in other sectors. I make you example of gambling, where I've been working in. So when gambling became out of the became out of the outlaw,
became legalized.
Became legalized. There was a phase where it was not completely legalized, but it was not prohibited. So a lot of people made a lot of money. Many were scams. Others were a company that now survive on the market and they have success and they make legal gambling. So in that phase, everything was possible. After that, there were strict regulation. You needed to have specific characteristics. The product were very, very, very controlled, tested as it is now. And I think that decentralized finance is exactly in this phase. So it's sending the hype phase where everybody can do anything. In my opinion,
I would talk about it
last a lot
as a FOMO phase. FOMO is a term that is widely used in the crypto world. FOMO is fear of missing out. Yeah. It's that feeling that you have, and if you have invested in crypto in your life, anyone that has bought crypto has had this feeling of FOMO. It's normal to have this FOMO feeling. Nobody can be immune to it. It's something you have inside you. I need to do it in this moment. I need to buy it. I can't lose the chance to have this. And obviously for us now it seems experienced in this world, so we are learning how to avoid FOMO. And you know how you avoid FOMO? You avoid it having the knowledge.
Yeah.
Because I had in my career around crypto, I had a lot of people, also professionals, that came to me talking to me about this new project they saw.
Yep.
This is a great project that you can do 10% every month. We need to do it. And I will tell them, wait,
Yeah.
who is the creator of this project? Is this company certified? Are they compliant? Who is the team behind it? What is their track record? There are so many information you have to gather before you're giving money to someone. If you are doing this without studying thoroughly who you're giving your money to, is the same exact thing as gambling.
Yeah.
Take your $10,000, go into a casino, it's gonna be the same.
Yes.
The chances maybe will be higher in a casino, from
Yeah.
my experience.
Yes, because they're controlled by a server who decides what are your chances.
Exactly.
There's a rule.
But there is
There's
a 2-3%
modify the
chance that you will win.
No, if it must
If it's
be,
a scam, it's a
75,
0%.
it's 5, 50.
Absolutely.
Every type of game has its own
Absolutely, yeah.
reward by law.
But
so
again, you see,
it's much better.
how can you fight and how can you manage FOMO? And I'm not saying that, for example, I'm immune to FOMO. I'm not immune to FOMO. I'm still.
No, but you're right. Yeah,
It's something you
must
have
cope with.
inside you. It's not something that you can avoid 100%. Maybe not in the crypto. Maybe in other situation, it can be love life. It can be in a sports life. But education along in the crypto space really helps to avoid the FOMO.
Okay, Mario. So we talked extensively about FOMO. Actually, what are your thoughts about cryptocurrencies?
Well, I think that blockchain technologies and crypto assets are real and are here to stay. So I think it's a new wave of technologies and financial instruments that has still to develop its full potential. But for this reason, one must understand now if wants to run the hype and so being part of this FOMO culture, or decide to invest for its professional future, for his wealth future. So if you want really to understand what's happening, what's coming, and how to be part of this process as a consumer, as an investor, as a professional, of course. So I think that's worthwhile investing some time before all and some money in learning and in understanding what's happening. This will be the foundation to understand in the future what will happen.
I think that the blockchain technology and crypto offer a lot of opportunities in the near future, all around the tokenization world, around a lot of different sectors that will start to integrate blockchain technology in their process.
Yeah.
Blockchain technology can be used not only in crypto, but can be used in a lot of different sectors like supply chain, notarization, certifications, and so it's not a small ecosystem. It's really a big ecosystem. I like to say that blockchain technology is an enabling technology that will allow us to do what we do right now, but in a different way, in a completely different way in the near future. So obviously the society will need skilled professionals that can enter companies, Web2 companies, and help them in this transformation to Web3, as there was the necessity of professionals to help companies to enter the Web2 world. Right now, we are in an early stage of the Web3 revolution, but obviously we see every day big companies, big funds talking about tokenization, talking about blockchain technology. The tokenization market has an incredible capability in the near future. So I think it's really, really important to take advantage of this opportunity. We are not talking about buy crypto to become rich. We are talking about get skilled and be that person that the company will need. You will be a necessity for companies if you are skilled in this.
Yes, I truly agree with the fact that the technology, the blockchain technology is widely applied already in many sectors. Let's talk about the smart contracts, for example, the supply chain, of course, and transforming. But in the finance sector in particular, I think that a major impact will be represented by the regulation, the coming regulation. So, because the finance sector is strongly regulated worldwide, with differences that in the time have been less relevant between the different areas of the world. But this new wave of technologies and products reopen the question of how to regulate, how much regulate, which direction to take. In my opinion, the risk of over-regulating or regulating before the market is mature is concrete, in particular in Europe. We've seen it already with the artificial intelligence, the AI Act. It's a big document with a lot of ideas. In my opinion, is not to set rules that can be applied, because it comes too soon, before there's something really on the table. You must accept that this phase of partially unruled environment develops, and at that time you can enforce some effective rules. And I think that crypto world is already at this stage, because it started some years ago already. And clever regulation is the one that will allow to invest in the sector without the fear of losing everything, because a rule sends out or outlaws
Absolutely.
your investment. But I think that we are at exactly at that time. I think that the choice of establishing a business in the Emirates is clever, because it's one of the countries which started this type of path. So regulating without discouraging investments, and this is what we got to do.
Absolutely, yeah. So coming to the end of our episodes, I would like to ask you, which are some tips you would feel like to give to young entrepreneurs or aspiring successful managers, based obviously on your experience, and what would be the advice that you would like to give to someone in their 20s, finishing their studies, that they want to enter this path of being a top manager or to be an entrepreneur, based on what you saw happening in the market?
Yes, to choose if you want to be an entrepreneur or a manager. I think this is the first question you must solve. I've been probably an entrepreneurial-oriented manager. I've not been a true entrepreneur in the real, and I think that it's being successful making this choice. So it's not necessary. It's not necessary for to reach success being an entrepreneur. Sometimes part of the young generation tend to think that you must create your company to be successful. It's not really, or it's not always necessary. But if you make this choice, you have to understand that you will be confronted in many cases with a global world, a global sector, and a big challenge. So I would say, begin with the end in mind and think big. This principle have been taught to me in the first year of my professional life, and that's still believe that they're useful. Begin with the end in mind, so not rush. No, learn, understand, and when you have a clear vision of what you want to do, then get started, and not anticipate the time. And the other is necessary. Think big. Don't think that everything can be done with a couple of friends in a garage. Of course, it's part of the development, but you must have access to professional resources, to lawyers, to finance, to accounting, to HR, also to things that are not. Sometimes for the entrepreneurs, this part of the business consider a burden, no, an overhead, money that's spent for nothing. But it's in the end, if you approach it correctly, is the way to create a true company and not just the extension of your desires.
I think that the think big part is really, really important. You need to find a really tough challenge, because if it's easy, anybody can do it, right? So
that's
when
true.
something is big, is challenging, is there that you see if you are capable of thinking big. And as always, is the motto of RIV is dream it, plan it, do it. I think that this slogan seems simple, right?
Yeah, it's simple,
but if you analyze it, so dream it. Anybody can dream. Everybody dreams, right? Everybody dreams. I can dream a Lamborghini. I can dream a huge yacht in Monte Carlo, and I can dream anything. But everybody can dreams, but a really small percentage of people plan on how to achieve their dream. Really, really small percentage. And of these people that plan it, a really microscopic percentage of these people actually do it.
Yes.
So from dreaming to planning is tough, but from planning to doing, that's really tough. And the bigger you dream, the bigger you think, is gonna be tough. But nice things, big things, successful things are not easy. They are tough. There is no easy money. Nobody is gonna give you money for free. That's something that people have to understand. That's the basics.
Yeah.
Right now, with all these with all these gurus, it seems that anybody can become a successful trader. The real thing is that the big traders, you don't even know who they are, the big traders. Big traders don't sell courses. Big traders and successful traders don't sell strategies. They can sell a product attached to their strategy. But do you really think that a successful trader will teach you their strategy for $1,000? Are you crazy? So the focus that we have to always have is think big, but be ready for all the big things you will have to go across. And being an entrepreneur or being a manager is absolutely not an easy task, and it will also impact your personal life. It's not something that will only be work, because when you choose to become an entrepreneur, I talk from my own experience and for the experience of the entrepreneurs with whom I had the pleasure to talk and discuss about, the entrepreneur is not only work, it's a way of living, and also the personal life, the free time you have is always focused on trying to solve problems and to be able to widen your network. So there is a lot behind the big dreams.
Yeah, so you've probably seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show. The main character Frankenfurter sings, "Don't dream it, leave it." And it's effective.
Exactly. Then another question I always like to ask to our guests: is there a particular book that you think it's crucial to read, or you would anyway advise to read, that maybe has helped you, or you think it's really, really important to read?
I must confess that I don't easily read management books. or economics. I tend to read this type of books for a specific purpose, maybe part of them or because there's a specific concept that I'm interested in, but I find quite difficult to read it from the beginning to the end. Not because they're bad written, but because I don't consider for the way
They are technical.
No.
They are technical books.
So I think that more inspired, and I don't read the novels because I'm not interested in the story and the characters, and so okay.
Yeah, me neither.
It's a choice.
Me neither.
No,
yeah.
I don't say. Well, I think that the most relevant books that I read that I consider relevant for everybody are books that talk of something that you that can be parallel. That's not so far away from your culture, but have a different thought approach. Philosophy, for example. So my last choice at the university before choosing economics was philosophy or economics, and I choose economics for mere economic reasons. I didn't want to be a very sapient but poor guy, and I didn't want to teach. Mostly a philosopher currently teaches, and I didn't like the idea of spending my life teaching. No. So books of philosophy from the past, from the dialogues of Platone, I think a very relevant book for manager come from the Christian religion. So Atti degli Apostoli is a very clever organization book. It shows how to build a very successful organization, and it shows the foundation of how to market it, how to develop the specific function, how to spend money in an organization.
Absolutely, super interesting.
It's interesting. Another very relevant book also that we consider a religious book is the Sant'Agostino. The life of Sant'Agostino is a change of perspective from being a successful professional as he was a leader, from choosing a very different way of living without losing his characteristic that made him successful in the previous life. That's very interesting, translated in the business. And also, in very recent, a book that I consider very, it opened my mind in many situations. It's from Alasdair MacIntyre. He was a philosopher, contemporary philosopher. The book is called Dependent Rational Animal. So the man, the human being, is defined as a dependent. So its value is comes from the fact that we are not self-sufficient. And we know that we're not self-sufficient, and this builds the society as we know, builds the organization. The fact that we depend on each other when we're a child and when we're old develops a conscience of growing together, coping with the diverse timing of our lives. Rational is the other characteristic, because we use this theoretical weakness that we have. And also the third word is quite relevant. In the end, we are animal. We must not forget that we are part of the nature, and in the nature we are animal in the end, not something structurally different from the other living forms.
I really appreciate your approach and around philosophy instead of. Then again, it's your choice. It's how you approach reading, and I really think it's important to have this philosophical background and to study philosophy also for a manager, because a lot of the part of the manager is talking to people, delegation, and understanding, reading situations. So I think that it's really, really appreciated the books you shared with us today. So anyway, we are at the end of the episode of today. It was a really, really interesting conversation around management, around mentorship, and around education and technology. So, Mario, I really thank you for being with us today. I hope you enjoyed yourself with us. And thank you for all the insights you brought to us around management, around entrepreneurship, and around mentorship that I really, really appreciated. So thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity, and let's come together whenever you want.
Absolutely. We'll see you soon again. Thank you again.
Thank you.